Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey everybody, it's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and welcome back to Joe on Joe, the only podcast where I cover every episode of the Sunbow cartoon DIC, even Extreme, and every issue of the Marvel Real American Hero comic book, page by page, panel by panel. This week is another edition of You on Joe. That's right, you, the G.I. Joe fan who loves America's favorite fighting team. You are the star of this show and your specific favorite aspect of the G.I. Joe team. Some of you love the cartoons, others love the comics. I know most of you love the action figures. So everything and anything with G.I. Joe is up for discussion on You on Joe. If you want to participate and be a guest, please reach out to me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at JoeOnJoePod, or just send me an email to joeonjoepod@gmail.com and let me know what topic you want to cover. The more specific you get, the better. While you're online, please give us a rate and review in your podcast app. Every review helps grow the show. If you're inclined, you can visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/JoeOnJoePod. Help keep the show afloat. And I'll tell you what, right now, a podcast sponsor who's absolutely kept our show afloat is the fabulous sponsors, the Movies and a Meal podcast. In the beginning of time, the smallest organism gained sentience and thought to itself, I really need a good meal. Then, a bunch of other stuff happened, and finally the Lumiere brothers started showing movies in France. This was all the inspiration that fellow broadcasters Brad, Keith, and Ben needed to combine these two primal needs into the Movies and a Meal podcast. The Movies and a Meal is one of the most casual and relaxing film talk podcasts you could ever listen to. These three friends enjoy a good meal together while talking all about the movies. And not just reviews, they do favorite lists, comparison discussions, genre talks, anything and everything that you can think of. They've even broken their solemn promise inherent in the name and branched out into TV talk. So I love the variety of films they bring to the table. They cover new releases, classics, cult films, often in one episode. It's really a delight to listen to, and it has something for every movie fan out there to enjoy. So if you're looking to grow your podcast library, if you eat meals, and if you've ever seen a movie, then you should give Ben, Keith, and Brad a listen and subscribe to the Movies and a Meal podcast. They've been a great sponsor to this show. I love the Movies and a Meal podcast, and I'd like all of you to love them too. This week on You on Joe, we are discussing one of my personal favorite playsets, the Transportable Tactical Battle Platform. When writer, comedian, friend of the show, Dave Amiott reached out and said, I want to discuss the battle platform, it was like the song Glory Days came to life in my head. You know, it was time to sit down with a friend and reminisce about one of the absolute GOAT playsets of my childhood. One that, in my opinion, gets nowhere near the amount of love it deserved. The TTBP was released in 1985 and was a brilliant piece of toy engineering. Our discussion gets into the details of how and why it is so great, but here's a quick overview. It was designed to be a mobile base of operations where helicopters like the Dragonfly or the Tomahawk could winch and place on any terrain. Featured adjustable height legs, an onboarding ramp, 2 heavy weapon stations, a chopper landing pad, and more. This was an all-purpose jungle gym for your G.I. Joe figures. So let's not dally any longer and let's get to the discussion. Dave, what about the Transportable Tactical Battle Platform made you earnestly say that's what I want to talk about?
You know, admittedly, you're a couple of years older than I am, but not many, like only 3 or 4.
Sure.
But if I understand your history correctly, you were into the toys and the comics and not so much the cartoon show?
No, I was way into the cartoon too.
Okay, so you were all 3, but were you there from 1982 or did you come in a little later?
I came in a little later. I came in a little bit later. I probably came in around the second miniseries, or maybe even the third when the show started on regular. I remember getting Snake Eyes as a toy and being the only person in the crew. In the group, it was my birthday, and the only person at that table that didn't know what G.I. Joe was. So that probably was 83. Okay. And then so it definitely was toys first. Then I found the show. So I probably would have found the show in probably the third, which was that was Pyramids of Darkness, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Went Mass Device, Revenge of Cobra, Pyramid of Darkness.
Yeah, I think I found it first with Pyramid, which makes sense why I love Shipwreck and Snake Eyes so much.
Okay. Well, so I think I'm kind of the reverse of that, where I got a couple of the toys before I knew what they were or cared about it. But then when the cartoon started and it was in my house every day, 5 days a week,
Yeah.
round about 1985, that's when I was all in on G.I. Joe.
Mm-hmm.
So I came in too late to have gotten the headquarters playset.
Got it.
But in 1985, the way I grew up, my family, we were always a little closer to my mom's side of the family than my dad's. So every Christmas Eve, my mom's parents and a couple of my aunts would come over to our house on Christmas Eve, and we'd have a Christmas Eve dinner, and they would bring presents for me and my sisters, and we would open those on Christmas Eve while they were there. And so Christmas Eve of 1985, my grandparents show up with this big box, which, to my 7-year-old memory, I remember it being huge.
Oh, yeah.
But that's when I got the battle platform.
Awesome.
And since I didn't have headquarters, that was my G.I. Joe base.
Sure.
And it worked fine. I didn't have a Dragonfly, but I did have the Skyhawk.
Mm-hmm.
Skyhawk was the first vehicle I ever got.
I'd argue the Skyhawk fit better.
Yeah, and it fit right on that landing pad.
Yeah.
And I want to say sometime in that year of 1986, I got the Armadillo. And the great thing about the battle platform is it's got that ramp that folds out.
Yep.
And the Armadillo fits exactly into the well for that ramp.
That's nice. I had the Armadillo. I don't think I ever made that connection. That's nice.
Yeah. The Awe-Striker did not fit. I don't know about either of the motorcycles, either the Ram or the Silver Mirage. I never had those. I never had a Shark, and I never had a Devilfish, even though I always wanted one.
Devilfishes were dope.
Yeah, but it would go. I'm looking at the box art right now for the battle platform. The Devilfish would have slid right up to that ladder.
I loved the TTBP. I thought it was an absolute great. It factored into pretty much all my play, and
Yeah.
I had the headquarters. But for me, like the headquarters, that was only used to launch your mission, or if the Cobra was doing an all-out assault.
Right.
90% of your missions were somewhere else in the world, and you needed a base of operations. That's what the TTBP was for.
Exactly.
Now,
And
do you have any idea? I didn't know this until I had researched this. Do you have any idea, unless you looked it up, how much this cost at retail?
no idea.
$12.
That's mind-boggling.
Right?
So an individual figure would have been what, $1.50?
Yeah.
Less than $2?
That's important to point out. This did not come with a figure. And I even remember at the time as a kid being like, wow, I wonder why this doesn't come with a figure. Not that it needed one, but it didn't come with one. Neither did the base. But you figure that figure would have added $2 or $3 to it. It didn't even cost $15.
Yeah.
There's not only is that the price that's on, yojo.com. I found an old a website had old actual ads in newspapers.
Oh yeah,
and and it showed it for like $12.88.
Wow, I thought my grandparents really splurged that year.
Me too. I figured the tiers for me were always like $40 and up for anything bigger than, bigger than like a Vamp or something like that.
Well, wasn't the flag like 120?
Yeah, this was $12. And now if you break it down though, I guess it sort of makes sense because you put everything together on it.
Yeah.
And it's just a bunch of pressed out pieces of plastic.
Yeah, it's not like super substantial. So
Right.
It's probably light to ship.
Yeah. Which is a huge credit to the guys that designed this. An absolute real credit because it is an awesome level of play. Do you want to walk through, let's go through all the pieces of play that you had?
Yeah, sure.
So for listeners that are unaware, which I can't imagine someone listening this far into Joe and Joe and not know what the Transportable Battle Platform is.
Well, here's the thing, though. It didn't have a big presence in either the cartoon or the comics. So
True.
I can understand why it wouldn't be on your radar
That
and
is
why
true.
it wouldn't be a holy grail like the flag.
It did show up, but you're right. It wasn't used regularly, which really confused me because the idea of this is the Joes would take it anywhere in the world, drop it off, and with what I thought at the time was an amazing feature, the collapsible legs that could go tall or short, so you could be on any terrain and it would balance itself and level itself out.
Yeah. The ramp wouldn't necessarily reach, but
sure, yeah, the ramp would always be awkward, but that's fine. The platform itself would be ready to go. And you want to know why the ramp would be okay? Because there was a ladder on the side. It was a ladder. So there was it was a 4-corner. I always consider this like a 4-corner toy. Sure. With like, I guess with the 5
plus the ramp and the landing pad.
Plus the ramp and the landing pad. Yeah, so really it's like a 6-point of play thing.
Yeah.
On one corner, you had a missile set with 4 missiles that could swivel all the way around, and you know, it's anti-air missiles. On the other corner, you had a Gatling gun that could also do the swiveling around.
Well, that was the thing that always kind of bugged me because it's a laser.
Uh-huh.
And I would have liked it if it had been something a little more realistic, like a Gatling gun, like the Whirlwind.
Right.
I was never as big a fan of the science fiction-y laser weapon elements of G.I. Joe. Sure. But it's a nitpick.
Yeah, well, you know, at the time it matched the types of stuff they were doing with the Terrordrome, like the cannons on the Terrordrome.
Yeah.
Like it was all that laser style.
And on the box art, you know, it looks like, you know, firing, you know, muzzle flare like from a regular gun. But in the blueprints and everything, it's a laser. And
in between those two, there's a ramp, and the ramp could fold up. So when it's all folded up, it's just a flat deck. But then it could pop out, and it could either go straight like 90 degrees across, or you could lower it down for, like you were saying with the armadillo, for a car to drive up and park. Then, right behind where the laser was, there's a depressed section with a gun rack. So you can put you can set up all your weaponry, which it came with a bunch of guns. And there was a tiny little red ladder that the Joes would, you know, use to walk down. In that corner,
guns were basically replacement weapons because they were all pre-existing molds came on a tree. I was too young to appreciate that. And I think most of those guns probably got lost pretty quickly. But it was like Grunt's M16, Snow Job's laser cannon or laser rifle. I'm not looking at yojo.com right now. I want to say
I'm looking at it. It looks like Grunt's M16. It looks like the gun with the arm brace. Didn't Duke come with that?
Oh yeah.
And then it looks one of them looks like the gun with the bayonet on it that the Crimson Guardsman came with.
Could be.
And then there's the standard one, wasn't that the M1911? Which was like, you know, like the generic laser gun.
Oh yeah, that's Snow Job's gun.
Snow Job's gun. Yeah, and then there was the one with the top of the grip is carved out like a handle, like you'd carry it. Was that Recondo's?
No, Recondo's was the one that was wrapped.
Okay.
Maybe Airborne's?
Maybe. You know what? I think you might be right. I never had Airborne as a kid, and I think you might be right.
I think Airborne's, though, also had a bayonet on it.
Oh, well, maybe that's the other one then.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm sure you have fans that
they're probably pulling their hair out right now. And
when you did that video of you with the guy from the estate sale and you weren't identifying the parts, I was like, Joe, come on. How do you not know that?
Oh, well, you know, thanks a lot, man. Yeah, I do my best.
But I'm saying, so my apologies to your fans that I don't have it. My internet's been running slow, so I don't have yojo.com in front of me right now.
Sure. But that was the great part about it, is it gave you a place to hold your weapons. Yeah. And in the corner was a winch, which you could hook up to your devil fishes of the world. Yeah. Then what I really loved was in the middle of that, so like kind of across from where the ramp would be, was an elevated helicopter landing pad.
Yeah.
Which certainly fit the Dragonfly, fit the Skyhawk, and all that stuff. But what I loved about it was that there, beneath it, it was a little walkway.
Yep.
So you could absolutely have action and conversations and stuff happening like in this hidden little walkway that led then to the control center.
Yeah. It was also like the landing pad provided cover. So if you were getting attacked from the air,
completely,
you could have your guys take cover there and get a little protection.
Yeah, completely. And in the command center, there was a swivel chair, and then there was a sweet little spotlight, you know, that you would use to spot incoming
and an
vessels.
Antenna for communications, and a clear plastic window, like sneeze guard kind of deal.
100%. Keep the salad fresh.
Yeah.
It was great, but looking at this now, like with an adult eye, I absolutely can see how this would be that cheap.
Yeah.
Because you do put it all together. I remember putting this together. Everything is assembled. It was like putting a model kit, snap type model kit together.
Yeah, and it actually, that was effective for storage as well, because you didn't need to take up a lot of space with it when you were done playing. You could take everything off and put it in a box and stash it till you were ready to play with it again.
Yeah, and everything is uniform color, so it's dark gray, light gray, and red.
Yep.
So there's no weird mixing on the molds. All the kind of details came from the stickers.
Yeah. I will say the main problem I had with it over the course of time is there. So since everything could be disassembled, there were a lot of parts to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And then the lighter gray plastic especially would break. So like in my case, by the time I was 10 or 11, the clips that held the ramp on had broken.
Yeah.
Some of the clips on the missile rack broke. Some of the fins on the missiles broke. So, you know, that in 1982, like the Vamp and the other vehicles, they all had text on the box, sturdy construction for rugged play. That was less consistent by 1985.
That was also just a trick to get you to break yours so that you have to buy a second one.
Well, yeah.
Oh, we
Now,
also should point out there's another ladder involved going up to the helicopter. I think they could have gotten away, although it probably wouldn't have been as stable, but they could have gotten away with just having the helicopter pad sit there. But that they added a helicopter to give them something to walk down was a real nice level of detail for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very well designed, well constructed piece of equipment right here. I got to ask you, what did you think of the access panels on the weapons placements? Did that ever play into your play adventures?
All the time.
Oh, really?
You give me an access panel, my Joe is going to investigate something. Someone's going to plant a bomb in it. Someone's going to fix some wiring. I loved access panels. I thought they were, even if they weren't like damaged battle ones, even if they were just access panels, I was always a big fan of access panels.
Okay, because I'm the opposite then. Like I never took the engine cover off of my Striker. I never replaced the panels on my Rattler with the ones with the bullet holes. I just wanted it to be normal.
Oh, I was all about the Rattler replacements. Absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you know, if you're going to have access panels for repairs, none of the Joe's accessories are tools, except for Toll Booth's sledgehammer.
No.
So
when all you have is a hammer, everything's a nail, Dave.
I guess I'll just keep banging this laser controller until it starts working again.
Well, wasn't it on the battle platform where wasn't in the comic book, wasn't it Shipwreck and Barbecue introduced to the battle platform? Yeah. Yeah, and Shipwreck said something like you're destroying my platform or something along those lines.
I know the exact quote. So
yeah,
it gets attacked.
He goes,
and
no,
it gets attacked by Cobra.
Right.
And stuff gets set on fire.
Right.
And Shipwreck says, they're tearing apart my air sea base.
Yep.
And Barbecue says, no, they're just setting it on fire. I'm tearing it apart.
Exactly. That's the quote.
And that, again, you know, Barbecue did not have a big presence in the comics.
No, he did not.
Neither did Shipwreck, for that matter. So in that one issue, and it is it makes sense for Shipwreck to debut in the same issue as the battle platform. Barbecue, they kind of had to construct a reason for him to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. On water, a firefighter on water is not usually well needed.
And that's the issue. I mean, again, Shipwreck was a favorite character of mine as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fairly certain that the Christmas that I got this battle platform was the same Christmas that I got my Shipwreck and my Quick Kick and my Gung Ho. And of those three, two of them are on the box art for the battle platform, so they were there a lot.
Yeah.
But in that issue of the comic, Shipwreck's kind of a jerk.
Oh, comic book Shipwreck was absolutely a jerk.
Yeah.
He didn't get a good personality until the Devil's Due era, when they kind of revamped him and, you know, butched him up a little bit.
And they made him closer to the cartoon.
Yes. Yes.
But in the first one, he shows up and first of all, he's really standoffish. Call me shipwreck. Don't call me salty. Don't call me swabby. I won't answer.
Yep.
And then barbecue shows up and he's being like, we don't need a firefighter. This is a combat unit. Well, it's your first day, shipwreck. You shouldn't be telling people what they need.
Which was, yeah. And then if you combine that with the cartoon Shipwreck, you weren't even a member of G.I. Joe. You were just a merchant marine that just kind of snuck your way into the Joe team.
Yeah. You were helpful, sure.
Yeah. 85 was the year for me, though, man.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I'm looking. I just real quick called up the roster of figures. I had probably 95% of these.
See, I didn't. I had Shipwreck. I had Quick Kick. I had Dusty and Footloose. And then I had Crankcase and Frostbite because I got those vehicles. But I didn't get a whole lot of the other ones. And I didn't feel like they were missing from my collection. Like, I guess I would have liked to have had Flint and Lady J. But other than that, I didn't need Airtight. I didn't need Barbecue. I didn't need Bazooka or Alpine. I was okay without them.
Yeah. 86, when I go forward, 86 actually was my 100% year. I had everything in 86.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking at 86. I don't think there was a figure I didn't have.
Okay. Well, from 86, I had Beachhead and Wetsuit, and they both spent a lot of time on my battle platform.
Oh, yeah. Well, they were the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're absolute best. That's the other thing. I love water-based toys because water or like snow, it's so I guess you'd call it weather-based toys. Weather-based toys that you could replicate. So with the battle platform, you could, you find a pool.
Environment.
Find environment, whether it's a puddle outside or in your swimming pool or some your bathtub, stuff like that. It just added that element of realism that
I wonder if it would float.
Well,
you'd have to be careful.
The legs would definitely submerge, and maybe if there was like some air pockets that got caught up on the plastic part, but I have a feeling no.
Because the legs weren't super long, even fully extended. So if you took it in the bathtub.
Yeah, but you could get 2-3 inches worth of, enough for the boats to float.
That's true.
If you extend them up. But there was enough for the boats to float. And then then you end up with that, and even early on I always realized this. You just end up with rusty screws. And I know you dry them out, whatever, but still you're a kid, so you just end up with rusty screws everywhere.
Now, so like I was saying, according to yojo.com, the battle platform did appear on the Sunbow cartoon. I don't remember what episode it's in because it wasn't used frequently.
No.
And whatever episode it's in, it wasn't especially memorable. So besides just playing with it, the main strong memory I have of it is from this jigsaw puzzle that I had.
Oh, yeah. Oh, was that one of the connecting 4 ones?
Yes.
Yes.
Must have been for my birthday in 1986. I got 2 of the 4. And it was the one with the battle platform and then the one next to it that had the hovercraft and the moray. But this one with the battle platform, I must have assembled it a dozen times. And it's a really, fun, dynamic image where it's got the battle platform. And there's a couple of cobras in the foreground. And then there's a shark and the dragonfly.
Those puzzles are great, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I had 2 of them. I never had all 4.
And that was fine. You could connect just 2.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Unless they're the corner 2s. If you have the corner 2s, you're a little SOL.
If somebody got you those, they were...
They really hated you.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you this.
It did have its own TV commercial, too.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was in a commercial with the moray, the Cobra cigarette boat.
Cobra hydrophone shooting across the water is an evil new foe. Cobra hydrophone's gonna get G.I. Joe. And this is it, the Cobra hydrofoil.
Cobra! Raise the missile rack! Fire the torpedoes! Fire! Return fire! Fire! G.I. Joe is counterattacking! Joe!
Cobra hydrofoil, G.I. Joe tactical battle platform. Other Joe and Cobra figures each sold separately.
Joe!
Gotcha. I didn't have the moray. I did have the hydro sled.
Nice.
Yeah. And I had 1 eel. I should have gotten another one at some point, but I never did.
Well, so going back to the water stuff, between the eel and wetsuit, and even going back to torpedo, the accessories on the aqua guys always, the only thing that comes close to it are the accessories on the snow guys. But the accessories for all the eels and all anyone that goes underwater, all the accessories are always awesome.
The flippers and the breathers.
Yeah, flippers, breathers, harpoons, stuff anything that would envelop the character, like from the front, like from their face mask going around to the back, things like that. That always fascinated me.
Yeah. I'm taking a look here at the puzzle, and they've flipped it. They've got the missile launcher and the laser on the opposite sides.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, and unfortunately, you couldn't do that on the toy. It wasn't that customizable. That would have been cool.
It was hard coded, if I recall. Now, here's a question. Did you ever know anyone, and I certainly didn't, I only had one Dragonfly, but the really cool thing for all you elite G.I. Joe players out there is there were hooks built into the battle platform that you could put the Dragonfly hook in and transport it. But
I didn't have the Dragonfly.
At least 3 Dragonflies to do it.
Yeah. I eventually had the Tomahawk helicopter.
Right.
That had a tow line coming out of the bottom of it.
Yep.
So I could have hooked that up to one part of my battle platform, but I did not have 2 Tomahawks. I didn't have multiple Tomahawks.
Right.
I don't think none of the other kids in my neighborhood that I played G.I. Joes with had one either. So yeah, that was one, and that's on the box for the toy. Mm-hmm. It's like they promote it as one of the features, but I was never able to recreate that.
Yeah, that's it's like the deluxe DLC that only the rich kids could get. Like when you're done playing with your USS Flag aircraft carrier, send one of your 5 Dragonflies over here. Or actually, rather, send 4 of your 5 Dragonflies over here, and we'll transport the battle platform. But even if you didn't use it, though, just knowing that was a feature, like you could imagine, you could play with it like they just got dropped off, and that was really cool.
Sure. I want to ask you this. This doesn't apply so much to the battle platform, but it does a little bit because, like you said, it didn't come with a figure. When you got a vehicle or some, maybe one of the smaller battle stations that didn't include a figure, how did you determine who went with that toy? Or did you have like your standard, this guy goes with this, that guy goes with that?
It's a good question. And we've talked about him a couple times on the show. This was Shipwreck's toy because of the comic book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shipwreck, anytime this platform came out, Shipwreck was on duty. So like in this case, it had to be an Aqua person. And so I figured Shipwreck needs a home.
Yeah.
Cutter had
He's all over the box art. He's in the jigsaw puzzle image.
Yep.
If you look at the catalogs from both 85 and 86, he's in both of them.
Great.
The picture from 86, it's really heavy on the 1986 characters, but Shipwreck is there. And that was the thing where, like, if I got the one that sticks in my mind is the Coastal Defender, the box on wheels.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I got that on the same shopping trip where I got my Chuckles. So mentally, Chuckles just went with the Coastal Defender. That's how it was.
Oh, yeah.
For whatever reason, I got Dusty around the same time as I got my Armadillo. So Dusty always drove the Armadillo.
Okay. Dusty was a, even though I know it came with a crankcase, Dusty was a perpetual Awe-Striker guy.
Yeah.
It was like they were the Duke boys, and they both rode in the Awe-Striker together.
Sure. Yeah.
But
obviously with the transportable battle platform, if I'm playing with that, it's an all hands on deck scenario.
Sure. Yeah, sure. But Shipwreck for sure. Wetsuit. Not Cutter, because Cutter had his whale.
Yeah. But like, for example, again, one of the first Joe toys I got for my birthday when I turned 6, it must have been, was the Skyhawk and Duke.
Mm-hmm.
So Duke just always went in my Skyhawk. And if I was landing the Skyhawk on the battle platform, that meant Duke was arriving and taking control.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So,
I never had Flint or Hawk, so Duke was always my leader.
So I don't know if you did this, but when I was getting a little older and it was time to put all the toys away and everything, I had one epic battle. And it started early on a Saturday morning and it stretched until the sun went down.
Mm-hmm.
And the first theater of battle, and during this, Joe's died, Cobras died, and they would be taken off the board for the rest of the day. Like we had pop rocks going. It was a whole big thing. And for me, it started all on the TTBP. that was the first location to be attacked.
Yep.
And it was epic. I think that's where Shipwreck died.
Oh.
Yeah, I was a big ninja front runner, so of course the ninjas lived to the end.
Oh, okay.
It was a big climactic battle. I do recall, absolutely recall. It all ended in the Terrordrome.
Yeah.
That's where everything went down. But yeah, the big battle started on the tactical battle platform, and it didn't go well for the Joes.
Oh, that's a shame.
Hey, they all died that day.
Oh,
with a handful of winners.
I didn't have a specific day where I, was decided, okay, I'm putting my toys away.
Mhm.
But I did have, big epic battles like that. And it usually, again, it would revolve around either my Cobra forces attacking the battle platform or my Joes infiltrating and attacking the Terrordrome.
Yeah.
And it would go like in waves. Like first, a couple of Joes would, secretly attack the Terrordrome and take out some key sentry positions,
Mhm.
and then it would be all hands.
Well, if memory serves, what happened was they killed Shipwreck there, but then Zartan disguised himself as Shipwreck because
Intrigue.
Because as a kid, the face that came with Zartan looked just like Shipwreck.
It did.
So I think that's how they then got access to it, by assassinating Shipwreck on the battle platform and then pretending he was Shipwreck when he went into the Joe base.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I think that's what was involved there. I had a kind of it was a standard square room, but it was a little prong that stood off to the side for the front window. So I was able to always have my stuff set up with Cobras in one corner, Joes in one corner, and then the battle platform would just live in the other corner. So I never really put them. I cleaned them up and I rearranged them, but they never actually got put away. Like it would just be my toys would be put back on display. With the vehicles on the shelves and all this stuff. But then wherever the headquarters were, they would just get reset up for the next time I wanted to play.
All right.
And I was meticulous about keeping. You were talking earlier about like losing guns and stuff. That's foreign to me.
Oh, okay.
Because even at that age, my brain was, and I've forgotten a lot of it now, but my brain was like, oh yeah, that's this guy's gun. He has to go with that one. It's this shade of green. It's that shade of whatever.
Obviously I reached the point where I was there, but again, I started when I was 6 and I wasn't that careful.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I got into Joe's when I was 9 or 10 or 8 or 9 or 8, or I would have been 8. Yeah. So somebody, 82, 83. Yeah. I would have been 8 years old. So yeah, that little collector bug had already fired, or this was the start of the firing of it. Like,
now I will say, the things that I always felt were absent from the battle platform that kept it from being a fully effective base is there is no sort of prisoner hold, and there's no infirmary.
True.
Like there's no place to take an injured Joe except for that little walkway under the landing pad.
Yeah. I think you know what? It's a good point. I think my injured Joes hung out in the armory. That's okay. If I'm having a memory surge here. I think when they got hurt, they would go lay down in there. But you're right. Yeah. There was no place to keep a prisoner. You just throw him overboard, you drown him.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Geneva Convention be damned.
Yeah. But again, minor point.
Yeah.
But I only think about that because the Terrordrome did have a prison cell.
It did. So did the base. Yeah, so did the base.
But the flag didn't have a brig, did it?
Oh, I wouldn't know.
I don't think it did.
I wouldn't know. That's something I've only seen in person like 2 or 3 times.
The mobile command.
And that was 100% as an adult. So
Well, I'll plug one of my favorite dealers. When I would go to conventions here in Southern California, one booth I would always look for was a vendor named James from Yojo Depot. He has since relocated to the East Coast, but the last time I saw him was around this time last year in 2021. He was at a convention in San Diego, and I drove down because there were supposed to be a couple of people from the Joe cartoon there, like Ron Friedman was supposed to be there.
Okay.
And one of the other writers, I'm blanking on who it was. Neither of them showed up. So I was a little disappointed by that. But James from Yojo Depot was there, and he had an in-box flag.
Oh, nice.
And that was when I was in my Admiral Keelhaul cosplay.
Oh, dope.
So I got a picture with, me just pointing at the box from the flag.
It was about this when I was a kid, and now certainly it's got a lot more to do with money, but it is also a lot of this is about space. I just need enough space to get a flag.
Well, the thing is, when I was a kid, I liked the water vehicles. I liked the ground vehicles more, and I cared about the air vehicles the least.
Mm-hmm.
Because air vehicles required a big commitment when you're playing. Like, that's the only thing. If you're keeping it in the air,
true.
that's the focus of your attention.
True.
So I didn't have a Sky Striker. I didn't have a Dragonfly. I didn't have a Conquest. So there was nothing that I was that interested in putting on an aircraft carrier.
You know what's so funny? So I'm 6'3" now. So I was a bigger kid. I have big hands. I loved the air stuff, and it's probably because my hands were big enough to hold both like a Rattler in one hand and a Sky Striker in the other.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Because I could. That was not a problem for me.
All right.
To be able to balance that and have those kind of dogfights. But I see what you're saying. As you're a younger kid, like you do a Sky Striker, that's both hands and whatever. But I was able. Yeah, I'll bet you that's probably why. Because I loved all the air stuff too. But yeah, I was a young boy with big hands, Dave.
Right. No, I'm just looking at the interior of the flag here at yojo.com. Doesn't look like there's a brig.
Maybe they threw them off in the ocean too.
Could be a lot of watery graves for captured cobras.
Well, any closing thoughts on the Transportable Tactical Battle Platform?
Well, I just think about the hours of enjoyment I got out of it, and I'm sure my grandparents, when they got it for me, didn't give it much thought. It was just, okay, it's Christmas, it's a special occasion, we should get him something bigger.
Yeah.
This is big, but it's not the huge, aircraft carrier. And, again, that's what I was still fairly new to G.I. Joe at the time. So it became the centerpiece of my collection until I got the Terrordrome the following year. Sure. And, I got so much pleasure out of it. Years later, as an adult, I dug it up. And I tried to refurbish it a little bit. Like I repainted it just a slightly darker gray. Well, first I soaked all the stickers off. Mm-hmm. I repainted it, and I got some replacement parts. The clips for the ramp were still broken though, and that you need to replace the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So that was a bummer. But when I was rebuilding my Joe collection as an adult, when eBay was new and I was just getting everything that I didn't have as a kid and had wanted. They all got displayed on my battle platform.
Awesome.
I don't have it anymore. I left it back in Ohio when I left there. But I was in Blast from the Past in Burbank, that collectible store. Uh-huh. Have you ever been there?
Yeah.
Within the last 3 years, they had a nearly complete loose battle platform in one of their display cases. And it was very tempting.
That's nice.
That's one of those things where I don't technically have room for it, but I would make room for it.
Cool. Well, I hope that you one day get your wish. I hope you make room for it, because I agree with you. This
I've
is
never
premier part of the old series.
I've only ever seen it in dioramas with the classic O-ring figures. I've never seen any modern era, like 25th anniversary style figures, how they look on it. Mm-hmm. That's something I would want to try out as well.
Put some oversized classified figures on there.
Oh, well. Yeah. Cobra used their shrink ray on our battle platform. Because they had a shrink ray.
They did have a shrink ray. Why not? Or, they had an enlarging ray, right? Polly got embiggened. Yeah. She got embiggened in the Christmas episode. So
they used it once. Yeah. It didn't work, and they never tried it again.
Yeah, so maybe the Joes got embiggened. And now the classified Joes are hanging onto their battle platform, waiting to be shrinkened. Yeah, I think so. Dave, this has been an absolute delight. Where can our listeners find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Dave Amiott, so it's my first initial and last name. And I will sometimes post pictures of my collection there, or my custom projects or works in progress. I'm not doing as many custom Joes anymore. I'm doing more Marvel Legends and Star Wars, but I am working on a pair of custom Crimson Twins in suits in the classified style.
Great.
So that's currently the project on my desk.
And I've seen your custom work. They're really nice, and you sell those on eBay, right?
Yes, from time to time.
Yeah, they're really nice. You pick nice variations of
Like
figures.
I try to do
things
stuff that isn't.
doesn't exist.
Well, yeah, and I try to do things that aren't likely to get made, and also that I don't see a whole lot of other customizers making as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I want to make a Dr. Biggles Jones.
Oh, great. Yep.
And they made a Marvel Legends Moira McTaggart with lab coat. So that's where I'm starting from. I just got to find a good head and modify a body to be appropriate.
Awesome. And you're also a contributing writer on a weekly sketch show, live performance show out here in California, right?
Yes, it's called This Week, and it is pretty much every week at Atwater Village, the Open Fist Theater. We are booked there through March, so we've got at least another 3 months worth of shows going on. And it's a Saturday Night Live style show, topical comedy. It's just based on what happens during the week. The director is a man named Ron West. He's a Second City guy. He had a recurring role on Third Rock from the Sun. He was on Whose Line Is It Anyway a couple of times back in the day. And it's a lot of fun. I got involved with it, from some people in my improv background. And, it's just fun every week to try and look at what's going on in the world and come up with something funny.
That's awesome. So if you're out here in Southern California, check out This Week and see some of Dave Amiott's work. And Dave, this has been an absolute delight.
Well, thank you. I always like being on your podcast.
Well, you're always welcome. Dave is also, by the way, Dave is the voice of Dr. Mindbender on our various Joe on Joe Theater tomfooleries.
And I'm your unofficial fact checker.
And you absolutely, Dave's the guy who tweets me or sends me a DM every week, goes, dude, that wasn't Snowjob's gun, that was Airborne's gun. And then I hang my head in shame and say, I'll fix it next week. So there you go. Now you know more about Joe, and Joeing's half the battle.